We are here. It is time for yet another episode of Regroup Phase. This week's episode of Regroup Phase goes over more Shadows of the Galaxy previews. No stream as of recording. There was supposed to be a Gamegenic preview stream that was supposed to happen last week. It did not happen last week. In fact, I believe it will have happened as of yesterday, as of the posting of this video. No coverage on that. Regardless, not the point. You're here. You want to see previews. Let's get at them. Our first preview this week comes by way of the Unlimited FFG social accounts. This is a unit, it's a new legendary, and it's a card we didn't need, but not for the reasons you think. We have here Supreme Leader Snoke, Shadow Ruler. 8 cost Vigilance Villainy ground unit, 6 power, 6 health, Force, First Order, and official traits. Each enemy non-leader unit gets -2/-2. This is a legendary number 37 out of 262 in SHD. Star Wars Unlimited did not need Elish Norn. That is the main reason why this card exists, because the effect was seen in another game. And while I understand the oppressive aura effect that comes out with Snoke, the fact that this can kind of clear a huge board of weenies, especially if your opponent has a bunch of units that are down to 2 health or less, this thing comes out and does a massive amount of damage. This combos with Palpatine's Return, bringing it out on 6 instead of 8. This combos with Overwhelming Barrage because you can start targeting units to get them down lower and lower to eliminate them when this threshold hits. Thankfully, it is enemy non-leader, so your leader is safe. But still, the amount of oppression that this card can bring out with 1 or 2 other cards is just absolutely insane. This is probably going to end up being a 3 of in every Vigilance Villainy deck from here on forward, because it just is that good of an effect. Snoke is that good of a unit to put on the board. Not even speaking to the fact that he's a 6/6. Sure, 8 cost, that combination of stuff is low, but the fact that he's also blanketing your entire board, your opponent's entire board with -2/-2s is nuts. It's going to be okay probably for this first set, but as we see more discard effects and as we see more effects that allow you to discard your own cards, Snoke is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And I don't think we need that. But other than that, this is a decent card. Next up, we have 2 cards from Thorrk over on YouTube. Link in the description below. We have an event and an upgrade. Let's check out the event. We have here Pillage, a 4 cost aggression tactic event. Choose a player, they discard 2 cards from their hand. This is a common number 181 out of 262 in SHD. Hand disruption by aggression. We've kind of seen a lot of what aggression can do with that. Things with Smoke and Cinders, Force Surrender, K2SO does this. Pillage adds another one of those effects, but you also do have to be careful because of the last card we just saw. If your opponent goes, cool, thanks for letting me discard this so I can Palpatine's Return it, you have to keep that pressure on to make sure that they can't continue using the cards in their hand to be able to use that event to bring anything back. Outside of that one interaction, this is actually quite good because for 4, you can rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. And while sure, they're drawing 2 cards every turn, they're still going to want to be putting down a resource. They're still going to be spending cards in their hand to play units. Against a smuggle deck, it's not as strong because they can still smuggle things in from the resource row. But other than that, Pillage is going to be a very good hand disruption card that's going to cause a lot of people to have their feathers ruffled pretty hard, but is also going to manage at least some aspects of the game well enough while your opponent can't do anything because they have no cards in their hand. The second preview is another bounty upgrade, this time in Cunning. We have here Unrefusable Offer. I actually just noticed that this is DJ betraying Finn and Rose, because that's a First Order Stormtrooper. Unrefusable Offer, 2 cost Cunning upgrade attached to a non-leader unit. Attached unit gains bounty. Play this unit for free under your control. It enters play ready. At the start of the regroup phase, defeat it. This is a 0/0 upgrade. Rare number 226 out of 262 in SHD. This is a fantastic Cunning upgrade, basically playing it on one of your opponent's units to be able to defeat, if you can defeat that or capture that unit. If I'm actually not sure how it works with capture, but if you defeat it, you get to play that unit on your side as a free sneak attack effectively, and then it gets defeated at the beginning of the regroup phase. Fantastic card. Bounties are going to be a very strong mechanic in this game, and I think I love seeing so far what we've seen, and I think this is going to be another one of those really good ones. 2 costs, kind of hefty, but if you can defeat something that turn, you're going to pay off that bounty in dividends, especially if you're able to target a unit that's got 4 costs, 5 costs, 6 costs, 7 costs, so on and so forth. Next up, From Unlimited FFG Socials, once again, we have our first leader of the week, and he's not just scum, he's rebel scum. This is Finn. This is a rescue. We talked about this a long time ago, that this is one of the subtitles. I actually had completely forgotten about this before this leader popped up, so I should have expected that this was coming. Didn't expect it as a leader, but as a leader, he is a heroism leader. Action, exhaust, defeat a friendly upgrade on a unit. If you do, give a shield token to that unit. As an epic action, he flips on 5 to a 4/6. He is a Fringe Trooper, a rare, number 3 out of 262. Our leader has the 4/6 with Fringe Trooper. On attack, you may defeat a friendly upgrade on a unit. If you do, give a shield token to that unit. The idea behind Finn is to take upgrades you don't need anymore, which are rare, but they might come up, to be able to give shields to protect the units to make sure things survive from damage effects, or take experience tokens that you don't need anymore and throw the shield tokens on there. I think this is going to be an interesting combination character. The strikes of it aren't immediately obvious, but because he does flip on a 5 to a 4/6, that is very relevant stats, considering the fact that Boba does the same thing as a 4/7. So we'll see how relevant he ends up being, especially with this combination of aspects. I like him. I think he's neat. There's a lot of build viability moving forward, and being a rare, you're not going to see him a whole lot in draft, so you don't have to worry about that. But Finn, this is a rescue, is here to rescue his friends and throw shield tokens on them by getting rid of other things that you don't need anymore. Next up, we've got 2 previews from our friend over at SWUHolocron.com. Link in the description below for that article. 2 cards here. Very cool. Let's start with an OT card. We have here Inspiring Mentor, a 2-cost command heroism upgrade attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains on attack, and when defeated, give an experience token to another friendly unit. This gives +1/+1 as an innate upgrade, a rare, number 104 out of 262 in SHD. For 2 costs, every time you attack, you can start giving out experience tokens to friendly units. Experience tokens do manage to get changed into shield tokens by Finn, so this is a great combination in that deck. It does force you to go specifically into Vigilance, Command, Heroism for that deck, and while it's not the best play right now, this is at least the start of a strategy that meshes with that character. Outside of that, as a 2-cost experience token itself that starts giving out experience tokens to other units, it's pretty good. I think this might see some interesting play as maybe a 1 or 2 of in either Luke decks or decks that can protect the attacker. And you do get it on defeat when the unit is defeated, so you at least get 1 extra experience token based upon that unit itself being defeated. If the upgrade gets defeated, you're SOL. But Inspiring Mentor, Obi-Wan, here to train Luke Skywalker in the Jedi arts. The second preview from Holocron is a unit. It's a cunning unit and a bounty hunter. We have here Resourceful Pursuers, 5-cost cunning ground unit, 5 powers, 6 health, bounty hunter trait, Saboteur, beat those shields, ignore sentinels, a common 218 out of 262 in SHD. Slightly better than the Syndicate lackeys because it will survive an attack. It doesn't ambush, but it can clear shields. It can bypass sentinels. It really just depends on what you need. If you need to clear a unit, you play Syndicate lackeys. If you need to clear your opponent's shields and bypass sentinels to hit the base, you play Resourceful Pursuers. This is going to be a very good cunning limited card, so you're going to see this a lot in draft and in sealed. Be prepared to see this a bunch in your pre-releases because it is a very good card for that purpose. Next up, our second double single aspect card has released. This time it's cunning. Our last one, Command, was pretty bonkers, and I imagine this one's going to be pretty bonkers too. We have here Final Showdown, a 6-cost double cunning gambit event. Ready each unit you control. At the start of the regroup phase, you lose the game. This is a legendary, number 208 out of 262 in SHD. Something to be said about the comparison between Star Wars Unlimited and Magic the Gathering is that in Magic the Gathering, Time Walk, getting an extra turn effectively, is never a bad thing. It's always good, and you can win games doing that. Final Showdown is seeking to mimic that thing without giving you a whole extra turn. You do get all of your units back ready, and you can make attacks or do other things with them. If you have other resources, you can do that. But ideally, what you want to do with Final Showdown is have a board full of units ready to attack your opponent. Make sure you do the math first. Make sure you double check the math first. Make sure you triple check the math first. And when your opponent goes to take the initiative, you play Final Showdown in order to be able to ready all of your stuff, attack, 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 win the game from that point out, because the second you hit the end of your action phase and go to the regroup phase, you lose. So win before that happens. This is a fun card, absolutely fantastic. I think that a deck that wants to build a bunch of units in double cunning and try to control what your opponent can do with their units is going to be really good. I think some people are thinking this is going to be really good in Boba Fett, and while it's good as a card in Boba Fett, I think this is actually a better Cad Bane card, because Cad Bane is going to be controlling units a little bit better by throwing those pieces of damage out and utilizing things like Relentless Pursuit and McClunky to capture, deal damage, and return your own units back to your hand to play them again. This is probably going to be one of those things where you want to play a unit, a cheap cost unit, so you're on 8 or 9 resources, try to get your attacks out to push through the damage against your opponent's base, survive as long as you can, and when your opponent goes cool as a control deck or an aggro deck, I take the initiative. Final Showdown allows you to win the game on the spot right there, and that's going to be a very interesting play with this card moving forward. On June 12th, FFG dropped a Dev Insight article featuring Tyler Parrott. We did get one preview out of that. And while I understand why this is aggression, why is this aggression? We have here Vam Brace Flamethrower, a 3-cost aggression upgrade attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains on attack. You may deal 3 damage divided as you choose among enemy ground units. +1 power, +1 health, item, armor, weapon, a rare, number 177, I believe, out of 262 in SHD. Because this comes from the main website and their deck building database, the image quality is not as good as it should be. But we do have here an upgrade that fits the Mandalorians because they blast you with the flamethrower. The fact that it's in aggression makes me want to rip my eyes out, because I was hoping these things were going to end up being more towards the vigilance side, since we've already seen a lot of vigilance upgrades with the Mandalorians. But the flamethrower is here. It makes sense that it's aggression because flamethrowing somebody to death is aggressive. And this is going to go really good in decks that want to use upgrades with like Bo-Katan or Saxon, and not so much in the Mandalorian, because Mandalorian really wants to have that vigilance secondary to be able to run his own units, to be able to run things like the Armorer and the Follower of the Way, Clan Ren Rescuer, his own ship, things like that. So he doesn't have room to be able to use this type of item. But Bo-Katan and her Mandos, Gar Saxon and his Mandos, they love this. They're happy to have it. A 3-cost 1/1 isn't great, but the fact that you can attack and deal damage, 3 damage divided as you choose among enemy ground units is super fantastic. And any other thing that likes upgrades, any other thing that likes dealing damage on attack also loves this thing. A lot of people are saying that Fifth Brother is really in on this. I think that's a good choice because he likes dealing extra damage. And if you can Van Brace Flamethrower and Fallen Lightsaber, you're dealing a ton of damage to your opponent's units to basically board wipe if you get lucky on your opponent's healths with these cards. Combo, it's very good. I just wish it wasn't aggression. Our next card comes by way of the unlimited FFG social accounts. It's our second leader preview for the week. That means, I believe after this, we only have 2 more leaders that we need to see the actual cards for. We know who they are. This is a leader that a bunch of people were excited for. It also means that it precludes a third person from being a leader in this set, which is disappointing, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very excited for this character. We have here Dr. Aphra, Rapacious Archaeologist. I'm sure I said that wrong. This is our cunning villainy rare leader. When the regroup phase starts, discard a card from your deck. Fringe trait. Epic action flips on 5 into a 2/5. This is number 15 out of 262. A rare, we said. On the flip side, the effect is while there are 5 or more different costs among cards in your discard pile, this unit gets +3/+0. When deployed, choose 3 cards in your discard pile with different names. If you do, return one of them at random to your hand. Dr. Aphra, I hadn't really considered this until the point of thinking about it right now, but self-mill and digging through your discard pile to bring something back is definitely an archaeology type thematic system for card games itself. A lot of players who've played Magic know that self-mill is very good, can be very dangerous, especially considering the fact that you could potentially deck yourself out. But if you get to a point where you can bring out a bunch of powerful creatures or effects or combo off due to that self-mill, you end up winning game after game after game because the strategy is very powerful. Dr. Aphra is going to be very similar. However, she only does this once per round. So by the time she flips, you'll have 5 cards in your discard pile. If you're losing units, you'll end up having more. So hopefully you're discarding with the top card of your deck multiple different cost cards because you want to be able to get that +3/+0 with Dr. Aphra's effect. And you're hoping that when you do deploy her, you aren't going to lose that effect by pulling one random card that sets the entire combo off the board. So right now, as it is, a 5/5 on 5 is fairly strong, not as strong as a 4/6 or a 4/7, because it means she is takedownable. She does die to things like Force Choke. Dice to removal is not an excuse to not run something, but it is something you have to be aware of. In terms of what potentially could be happening, we could see some events, we could see some characters that care about having cards in the discard pile. Because she is cunning, she doesn't really interact with the Snoke Palpatine's return combo. But if you are running something like cunning command with Dr. Aphra, if you do flip that Vader, that Maul into your discard pile, you can use Palpatine's return to bring that back. And that ends up being a really good combo for something that Aphra can do right after the deploy round when you get her. I think she's very good. This art is very interesting. It does bring up a question about the second Maul art that we saw in the title image of Shadows of the Galaxy. What's going to happen with that, and how is that going to be reflected in the set itself? Are we going to get a second Maul card? Are we going to get a Maul event that references him with that art? Who knows? But as it stands, Dr. Aphra is our rare cunning villainy leader, and that means we know the names of every single leader in this set. Command villainy is Jabba, and aggression heroism is Han Solo from Solo. So there we go. We're set and ready to go for leaders. But in terms of what Dr. Aphra brings to the table, self-mill, very strong. If you can fish through your discard pile for other effects, that'll be interesting. If there's something that allows you to bring a smuggled card from your discard pile face down into your resource grow, that's going to be another interesting aspect for this card. But as it stands right now, this is a potential future strength leader. And right now, with the cards that we know, not hugely impactful. Next up, we have two previews by way of the Force Unlimited. Ned and Parker bring to us some interesting cards. Before we talk about these cards at all whatsoever, I implore you, I encourage you, I demand that you go watch their preview real quick, because it's definitely one of the best preview videos that can possibly be put out there. If you start watching it and you understand what I'm talking about, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if not, sorry. With that said, we've got two cards here, a unit and an event. Let's start with the unit. We have here Unlicensed Headhunter, a 2-cost aggression space unit, 3 power, 2 health, underworld vehicle fighter, saboteur keyword. While this unit is exhausted, it gains bounty, heal 5 damage from your base, and uncommon number 165 out of 262 in SHD. Aggressions, solo aspected cards that just push damage out continue their trend here in this set. It is an underworld card, so it doesn't necessarily mix with the rebel strategies, but being a 3/2 in space means that it can push out just as much damage as a Green Squadron A-Wing can push out. It does die a little bit easier, but it will crack back for 3 damage on the attack, as opposed to the Green Squadron A-Wing, which only does 1. And this will also heal your opponent's base if it does end up dying. So while it's exhausted, you ideally want to try to protect this to use it as your last attack in a round when your opponent can't respond to kill it. Or if you don't care if your opponent hits that 5 damage, and you can do a ton more damage with this Unlicensed Headhunter. A combination of the Headhunter and Surprise Strike does put 6 on your opponent's base, which ends up only being 1 if this does get defeated, but your opponent does need to be able to actually defeat it. Interesting combination here. This is going to be one of those risky, push as much damage as you possibly can and hope your opponent doesn't have too much to respond with. And I think that's going to be really cool for aggression-based strategies. The next card is an event, and this is actually a pretty exciting event for unit-based strategies. We have here Swoop Down, a 1-cost cunning tactic event. This says attack with a space unit. It gains Saboteur, and it can attack ground units for this attack. If it attacks a ground unit, this unit gets +2/+0, and the defender gets -2/-0 for this attack. This is a rare number 230 out of 262 in SHD. This is Strafing Gunship on an event, but it also stacks on Saboteur and a power bonus. So if you think of Strafing Gunship and Precision Fire combined into one thing on a space unit, that's how Swoop Down works. This is a fun event of what it does. This can end up clearing out a troublesome ground unit and not do a whole bunch of damage back. Or realistically, you can just, if your opponent has a Sentinel in space that you need to bypass, Swoop Down allows you to bypass it with that Saboteur. You just don't get the power bonus, and the defender, which is the base, doesn't get the power loss. But ideally, this is, as Harker like to put, a permanent removal piece for ground units. That Saboteur bypasses the whole Sentinel flowchart of attacking ground units, which is very strange, but this does give you some power in terms of getting your space units to be able to clear things off the board. This definitely helps Fire Spray survive and also clear off a troublesome ground unit or any other space unit you potentially have that wants to be clearing out your opponent's ground units to make way for your ground units to attack your opponent's base or clear out other troublesome ground units. Our next two cards come by way of individual FFG social media posts, but we're going to splash them together because they are basically a pair of cards. Let's start with the first one. We have here Lom Bounty Hunter for Hire, a 4-cost Cunning Villainy ground unit, 4 power, 4 health, haha. Underworld Droid Bounty Hunter, Ambush. Each friendly unit named Zuckuss gets +1/+1 and gains Ambush. This is an uncommon number 188 out of 262 in SHD. Lom is a 4-drop that has Ambush. You can pop him in, and if he survives the next round, he's going to give Zuckuss the +1/+1. You'll see why it's next round and Ambush in just a second. Underworld Droid Bounty Hunter. This fits a lot of the different themes. It's going to fit the Underworld theme. It's going to fit the Bounty Hunter theme. This is another droid that, while there's nothing that specifically calls out droids, droids exist, and this is another one. And then we have Zuckuss, Bounty Hunter for Hire. 5-cost Cunning Villainy ground units, 6 power, 6 health, Saboteur. Each friendly unit named Lom gets +1/+1 and gains Saboteur. This is an uncommon number 190 out of 262 in SHD. So these two guys, they go together. You basically want to play them one round after the other. Lom first to ambush something and try to clear it off the board and survive, and then Zuckuss afterwards so that he could do the same thing. Instead of a 6/6, he becomes a 7/7 if Lom is on the board, and also can Saboteur out Sentinels, shields, but on the ambush, if you do ambush something that has a shield, you just kill the shield off of it, which is really cool. And you can ambush any unit in the ground arena regardless of Sentinels because of Saboteur. This is a very interesting combination of cards. This is actually a very good 4-drop, 5-drop turn play if you're not playing command because you really want that overwhelming barrage with your 5 resources. But being able to, in a pure cunning deck, double cunning with either Boba Fett or with Cad Bane, you get to plot down the Lom on 4, plot down the Zuckuss on 5, do a lot of different damage with those different things, and then you can continue using Cad Bane's effect each time you deploy one once per round on the leader side. Plank things to be able to do the damage. I think that these two are going to be really cool together. They do fit the theme of the bounty hunters doing cool things, either paired together or with just the good stats that they have in general, or good keywords. And being able to have this come out as a 7/7 if you've already got Lom, and then on the same round that Lom all of a sudden becomes a 5/5. There's a lot of power in here that will allow you to do a lot of damage very quickly that your opponent might not be expecting. Our next two previews come by way of Kolat Information Network. Link in the description below. We have an upgrade. We have an event. There's some really cool spice here. Let's check out the upgrade. We have here Heroic Resolve, a 1-cost aggression heroism upgrade. Attached unit gains action, 2 resources. Defeat Heroic Resolve on this unit. Attack with this unit. It gets +4/+0 and overwhelm for this attack. This has +1/+1 as an innate upgrade. It is a rare number 155 out of 262. So this is one of those things that it allows you to do a pretty chunky attack with the effect text of it. You have to pay 2 resources in order to be able to do this. So you're not going to be able to play this on a 1-cost unit. I mean, you could play it on a 1-cost unit round 1, and then round 2, activate the thing and do another 1-cost thing later on. But ideally what you want to do is you want to prep this for a 1-2 punch. Drop the Heroic Resolve onto the units. If it survives, then use its action to be able to attack with +4 power and overwhelm into whatever it is you're attacking. Hopefully you get some extra benefits there and deal the extra damage onto your opponent's units. But Heroic Resolve is one of those. It might only stick on the unit for 1 or 2 rounds, but if it gets its effect off, it can be super deadly to the opponent. And I think this does help with the pressure that aggression decks want to run in terms of the widespread aggro strategies. By itself, it's basically just a 1-cost experience token, but it has extra effects that the opponent either has to deal with immediately and potentially waste a resource on something like this, or just eat it and hope that they don't kill them, which with Heroic Resolve, 4 extra power, that's a lot of damage. The second preview is an event. This is a anti-capture event to a certain degree. We have here Detention Block Rescue. This is a 3-cost aggression gambit event. Deal 3 damage to a unit. If that unit is guarding any captured cards, deal 6 damage instead. This is a common, number 180 out of 262 in SHD. This is Aggression's anti-capture card. You're effectively using this to try to wipe out something that is guarding one of your captured units. And if your opponent is doing it right, they're guarding your captured unit with a high health unit, so that way it stays off the board for longer. This is technically a worse open fire, but a better than open fire in the situations where you're going up against capture decks. So you could theoretically run these in your sideboard in place with open fire in your main board, and if you know your opponent is going to be throwing bounties and captured units against you or capturing your units, you can swap out your open fires with the detention block rescue, and it doesn't really change your deck all that much other than giving you the opportunity to rescue your captured units with this event. I think this is going to see some amount of play. This is going to be very strong in set 2 limited because there's a lot of capture mechanics that are going to be coming at you with different things. We'll see if it ends up being something that sticks in the long run, but I think this is probably going to be one of those really popular set 2 cards in the set 2 meta and potentially set 3 meta. But as we get further and further away from things like capture and anything that deals with capture, it's going to get less and less viable. Next up, 2 previews from Pure Sabacc over on YouTube, link in the description below. We've got some really cool stuff here, including a character I don't think very many people were expecting, and a very fun event. Let's start with the character. We have here Embo, Stoic and Resolute, a 3-cost Vigilance ground unit, 3 power, 4 health, Underworld Bounty Hunter. When this unit completes an attack, if the defender was defeated, heal up to 2 damage from a unit. This is an uncommon, number 59 out of 262 in SHD. Embo was part of a short-lived Bounty Hunters arc in Clone Wars. That's probably why a lot of people don't recognize him. I played Galaxy of Heroes, and this was one of the early unlocks that you could do at a certain level in your account. So I had him, and I knew him. He throws his hat at people, and it's pretty cool. This is kind of like the Ezra card where it's a 3-cost 3/4, so it's going to stick on the board a little bit more and has an effect when you complete an attack. If you do get to defeat a unit, you get to heal up to 2 damage from a unit, including itself. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind in terms of the things that you're doing. A Vigilance Bounty Hunter is kind of interesting. It's good to see a spread of them across. This might go really well with the Mandalorian deck, who seems to be wanting to work more with Bounty Hunters themselves. But if you do end up getting a bunch of Underworld cards and Bounty Hunters in Vigilance, that could slide into any other Cunning or Aggression strategy that wants to use either or both. I think this is actually going to be a very strong limited card because it is on that higher end of the power and toughness, power and HP ratio for 3-cost units. And at an uncommon, you're not going to see it as often. So when it does come out, it's going to be one of those things that's going to change the board state in your favor so long as you can defeat units with this Bounty Hunter. The second preview is a low-cost aggression event that has an interesting interaction with the way that aggression kind of wants to play the game. We have here Desperate Attack, a 1-cost aggression tactic event. Attack with a damaged unit. It gets +2/+0 for this attack. This is a common, number 179 out of 262 in SHD. Aggression has a lot of low health, high power units that want to just be attacking and slamming into other things and kind of clearing themselves off the board to set up for other things to go. There are things that do have an even amount of power and health. K2SO is one of them. Stuff that does have low power, high health. You have Black Chrysanthemum and you have the Gorilla Attack Pod. But generally, aggression doesn't really keep damaged units on the board. So having an aggression event that does that means you're probably sticking this in another deck that's going to have things that have damage on them. This is obviously very good in Grand Inquisitor. Desperate Attack here is basically designed to allow you to utilize your strategies to put damage on your units, get those extra bonuses with grit, and then use Desperate Attack in order to be able to give the extra attack for the attack. It does cost you a resource and a card from hand, but the +2 does really do work, especially if you're already getting other power bonuses based upon the damage you have on your character. It's a cheap event. It does what that deck really wants to do. We'll see if it ends up showing up in any other deck. Because like I said, aggression itself traditionally doesn't keep units on the board with damage on them. Next up, the gentlemen over at Ice Cave Radio bring us 2 Bounty Hunter flavored previews. We've got a unit. We've got event. Some really cool stuff here. Let's start with the unit. We'd seen this art before. This was the Corrin with the DC 17, I believe it is, rifle. Could be 15. Bounty Guild Initiate. 1 cost aspectless ground unit, 1 power, 2 health bounty hunter. When played, if you control another bounty hunter unit, you may deal 2 damage to a ground unit. This is a common number 254 out of 262 in SHD. This slots into every bounty hunter deck. It is very good, not as your first round play, but if you can do something like Greedo and then this guy, you can do a ton of damage into your opponent's units if they have something on the board that you can deal a unit damage to. But ultimately, this is a support piece that basically is as long as you control another bounty hunter, pay 1, deal 2 damage to another unit, and maybe 1 damage to your opponent's base on another round if this doesn't get cleaned up. This is a nice cheap unit. It's really good for what it needs to do, and the art is killer. Next up is the event, which we've seen the art for this in the background, but it's really nice to have this full, and this is a very interesting event. We have here Headhunting, a 2-cost villainy aggression tactic event. Attack with up to 3 units, 1 at a time. They can't attack bases for these attacks. Each bounty hunter that attacks this way gets +2/+0 for its attack. This is an uncommon number 145 out of 262 in SHD. This is an incredible event. This is along the lines of Medal Ceremony, but rather than getting a benefit after attacks, you just attack with these things. Now, you can't attack your opponent's base, which is unfortunate, but if you have Overwhelm on your stuff with, say, Thorlom, Zuckuss, and Jango Fett, then you can really do some extra damage into your opponent with this +2 power that you're getting when you're attacking with the Bounty Hunter. Obviously, Jango Fett needs to be targeting something that has a bounty on it, but that's not hard. You can combine these themes together with Bounty Hunters and Bounty very easily in both Cad Bane and Bossk. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see which of those 2 bounty hunter leaders end up being the prominent bounty hunter theme support when it comes to things. Cad Bane's a little bit more on the underworld side, but you do have a lot of underworld bounty hunters. Bossk is more on the bounty hunter / bounty side, but you do have a lot of underworld things that you can do with that. It's very interesting to see how 2 very similar decks are coming out that are going to be doing mostly the same thing, and we'll see which ends up getting a lot of power. But Headhunting, I would say even if you can only attack with 2 units, if you have that ability to get that Overwhelm out, again, Zuckuss, Thorlom, Headhunting, you're done. Like, it's such a baller ability on this card. And then, of course, we have the Executor Bounty Hunters here, Dengar, Boba Fett, IG-88, still need a card for. Bossk, Thorlom, and Zuckuss in the background there. Fantastic. Super happy to see this. Our next previews come by way of IGN. Link in the description below. We have 2 cards here. 2 cards I did not expect. 2 cards I'm super hyped for. Let's get started. We have here Kylo Ren Killing the Past, a 6-cost aggression vigilance ground unit, 6 power, 7 health, Force First Order. When playing this unit, ignore his villainy aspect penalty if you control Rey. On attack, give a unit +2/+0 for this phase. If it is a non-villainy unit, also give an experience token to it. This is a legendary number 141 out of 262 in SHD. Let's go ahead, since there's context here, check out the next card. We have here Rey, Keeping the Past. This is a 5-cost Vigilance Heroism ground unit, 4 power, 7 health, Force resistance traits. While playing this unit, ignore her heroism aspect penalty if you control Kylo Ren. On attack, you may heal 2 damage from a unit. If it's a non-heroism unit, give a shield token to it. Legendary number 46 out of 262 in SHD. So, this is the legendary Rey and Kylo, the dyad, against the Praetorians after the death of Snoke in The Last Jedi. One of the best scenes in all of Star Wars. Incredibly cool design here for the way that these 2 characters work together. Ideally, you can play them in their own decks respectively with some level of synergy, but you're basically going to be playing the opposite one in the deck that you want to play. So Kylo Ren leader wants to play Rey units. Rey leader wants to play Kylo Ren units, because you always control your leader at any given point, whether it's on the leader side or on the unit side. So you'll be able to ignore the aspect penalty if you control the specific one. But even paired together, Rey on 5, Kylo Ren on 6 gives you a nice little benefit of being able to do a couple of different things. Now, they're only going to be able to apply their bonuses to each other or their non-aspect unit clause bonuses to each other unless you're playing them in a specific deck. So again, Rey in Kylo, Kylo in Rey. So you're giving a lot of villainy units shield tokens. Actually, not even villainy units, just non-heroism. So if it's agnostic, they get shield tokens. And then Kylo will do experience tokens. But the idea is you want to play Rey on 5 to be able to get this set up. You play Kylo Ren on 6, and then attack with Rey to heal 2 damage off of something and give Kylo a shield token. And then on your next round, you get to be able to attack with Kylo Ren to give Rey an experience token, and then Rey can attack to give Kylo Ren another shield token. There's a lot of really cool, fun, neat things you can do with these two characters. I'm very excited, very reminiscent of the time in Star Wars Destiny where you could play the hero and villain versions of these characters together, which was one of the only times you could do that in that game. The art on these are incredible. The designs on these are incredible. I think that these are going to be really fun cards to play. Obviously, as legendaries, they're going to be a little bit harder to chase down. Trying to pick up 3 hyperspace Reys is going to be tough, but it'll be interesting to see how it presents itself forward. These types of combo cards go really well in combo type decks, but generally by themselves aren't viewed as the greatest card. So people who want to play Kylo, people who want to play Rey, they're going to be picking these up. But I think competitively, while I think the combo is really good, most people are going to stick to what their deck does well as it is. And while Kylo's not helping Kylo discard cards and Rey's not helping Rey have 2 power or less units on the board, they still have a place in both of those decks, and it'll be interesting to see how that works moving forward. Our next preview comes by way of the Unlimited FFG social accounts, link in the description below. We have here the best character in Solo: A Star Wars Story. No, it's not Han Solo. Let's check it out. We have here Tobias Beckett, I Trust No One. We call this in the subtext subtitle document from Tyler. 4 cost, cunning ground unit, 4 power, 5 health, underworld trait. When you play a non-unit card, you may exhaust a unit that costs the same as or less than the card you played. Use this ability only once each round. A smuggle cost of 5 and a vigilance, a rare number 217 out of 262 in SHD. Beckett is a great key core component to Underworld. He triggers off of Cad Bane to allow you to deal the damage. When you play your events or your upgrades to be able to do things, you can then exhaust based upon the cost, and that combos with a couple of other things that are in the game. I think this typing here of Cunning and Vigilance means that he goes very well into the Mandalorian deck, because the Mandalorian's playing upgrades, which traditionally non-unit cards, so you can exhaust 2 things on the board depending on what your opponent has, or quote-unquote double exhaust something, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just fun to do and say, hi, I've exhausted this unit twice. Aha! Tobias Beckett is going to be a key piece of the puzzle for the cunning non-units matter type style of gameplay. You can stack this up with things like Boss and Bounty Hunter Crew. Boss to deal extra damage based upon the events that you would play, and then Bounty Hunter Crew to get those back. Mind you, you would have to separate them out a little bit because you can't just 4, 5, 6 those 3 units. You would get no benefit off of any of that. But Beckett gives you an opportunity to do a couple of different things and exhaust down your opponent's board with the units that you have. Again, I think this is going to be very strong in the Mandalorian, but we'll have to see how that ends up playing moving forward. Next up, we have 2 previews from Alliance Dispatch over on YouTube. Link in the description below to their video. Some interesting stuff here, and a character that actually speaks to me a little bit, even if he doesn't do the same thing as why I originally wanted to see him. We have here General Riken, a defensive strategist, 6 cost, command, heroism ground unit, 5 power, 7 health, rebel official. When played and on attack, choose a friendly unit. If it has Sentinel, give an experience token to it. Otherwise, it gains Sentinel for the phase. This is a rare number 103 out of 262 in SHD. Riken here specifically wants to combo with Sentinels. We know that Echo-based Defender is a Sentinel, so you can give an Echo-based Defender an experience token when this is played and on attack. The other combination is that if you can give Sentinels to your units temporarily to be able to give them the experience tokens, a leader like Chewbacca is able to do that. But even then, being able to just attack with Riken and get a Sentinel on one of your units that doesn't have it is a pretty decent power play, and this guy's got some good stats to go with it. He's also a rebel, he's also an official, so he onboards a couple of different strategies that are here. The reason why I actually like this character a lot is because he enabled a very important strategy for me in Star Wars Armada, which was just throw fighters at your opponent. I was a big fan of just playing Phoenix Home and also a bunch of fighter units and things that flavored with Star Wars Rebels while I was playing Armada. I still have all that stuff packed away, and it's really cool. But this was the leader that I would use, even though he's not part of the Rebels show, it fits the strategy of I just want to play as many fighters as I possibly can. I'm a little disappointed he doesn't do that in this game, but I think what he does do is very impactful, especially in combination with things that can enable him to either give Sentinel or at least keep the units on the board so that they can be given Sentinel by him. If you can ambush this in with timely intervention, you can, when played, pick a unit that doesn't have Sentinel, give it Sentinel, and then when you use the on attack, you can then give it an experience token, which is pretty decent, or you can pick 2 of your units to give Sentinel for the phase. There's a lot of different things you can do here with Riken, and they're all pretty decent things to do. The second preview we have here is a space unit. It's not flashy, it's not impactful, but it's good for a couple of purposes. We have here Collections Starhopper, a 2-cost command space unit, 2 power, 2 health, underworld vehicle fighter traits, smuggle for 3 and a command. This is a common, number 111 out of 262 in SHD. You're not going to see this in Constructed unless there's some sort of underworld or vehicle pumping strategy that wants to get out cheap units like this. Consortium Star Viper is better for 1 cost more, and it does more things. Even though this smuggles him for 3, a 3/2/2 is not that fantastic. But in terms of drafting and sealed and your pre-release, this is actually going to be a very important unit if you're playing command, because space units are hard to find overall when you're playing in those environments. Again, not having access to your entire collection means you got to think about these things a little bit differently. A 2/2 in space for 2 or a 2/2 in space for 3 from your resource pile can be impactful and save you to be able to destroy your opponent's space units, or race your opponent in a better arena where you're more equipped to deal with things than you would the ground arena if you didn't have a lot of good ground units, or your opponent's ground units are better than yours. So not a constructed / premier all-star, but it is a limited all-star, and those are important for sets. Our next preview is another quick preview by the Unlimited FFG social account. Looks like they're speeding up previews here to make sure that they can get the entire set spoiled within a short period of time. But here we are, another unit. We've got Toro, Calican, 3-cost villainy ground unit, ambitious upstart, 3 power, 5 health, bounty hunter trait. When you play another bounty hunter unit, you may deal 1 damage to it. If you do, ready this unit. Use this ability only once each round. This is an uncommon, number 239 out of 262 in SHD. Toro here kidnapped Grogu to try to force Mando to hunt down Fennec Shand. That obviously ended up going to where we saw in other things with the Mandalorian, but this is actually a pretty funky unit here because there's a couple of different synergies that you have here. Bare minimum, the round you play him, if you play another bounty hunter and deal a damage to it, you can ready and attack with Toro Calican. You can attack with Toro, play a bounty hunter, then attack again in a round where he's already ready. There's also synergy with the Grand Inquisitor, where you play Toro, you can deal damage to him, attack, play a bounty hunter, deal damage to that, and then attack with this again. Lots of sequencing required for those actions because they are individual actions that are required rather than a sequence of actions that can be done within a short period of interaction. But 3 damage is 3 damage nonetheless. Interesting card here, interesting card design. This probably definitely will see a lot of play because a 3-cost 3/5 is real good. This has the highest, I believe this has the highest combination of the 2 stats on a single unit at 3 costs in the game right now. If I'm incorrect, you'll let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I like him. I like the art a lot. It's pretty neat. Fun stuff for villainy bounty hunters. And last but not least, for this video and this observation period of previews, we have 2 previews coming by way of TwinSunz over on YouTube. Link in the description below. We have here a unit and an event. Let's start with the unit that I thought had a specific name, but turns out not to. We have here Hunter of the Haxian Brood, a 3-cost cunning villainy ground unit, 4 power, 3 health, underworld bounty hunter. While an enemy unit has bounty, this unit gains shielded. This is number 186 out of 262, a common in SHD. I had it somewhere stuck in my head that this was Atticus Rex. I've looked up a bunch of information and I can't find a specific name for this specific bounty hunter. The image that comes up for Rex is different than this. The helmet is different, but most of the hunters of the Haxian Brood had a very similar vision to this, or were the big 2-handed spear dudes. Fun little bounty hunter here. It doesn't require your opponent to permanently have a bounty for the whole period of time. You just need your opponent to have a unit with bounty on it when this hits the board, which is cool because you could bounty, drop this, get the shielded on it, and then in your next action, defeat that bountied unit, and this will still have its shield. Obviously, this is designed so that this on the next round can attack, or potentially if you have something that gives something ambush, you can ambush out with a Hunter of the Haxion Brood so long as your opponent has a bountied unit. And it does have to be an enemy unit. Neat stuff all around. A 3-4-3. We've seen those stats before on Echo Based Defender. This is designed as an attacking unit. It does have Underworld. It doesn't have Bounty Hunter, so it triggers off of those different things. Lots of cool things that can happen as a result of that. It just feeds it more into Underworld strategies, more into Bounty Hunter strategies, and more into villainy strategies. And you know what? That's pretty cool. The last card we have here is a double single aspect. This is an interesting card. We have here the Chaos of War. This is a 3-cost, a double aggression plan event. Deal damage to each player's base equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. This is a rare, number 159 out of 262 in SHD. The art on here is incredible. This is the Night Owls versus the Mandalorian Super Commandos at the end of Star Wars: The Clone Wars during the Siege of Mandalore. You can see Ahsoka in the background. Incredible art, very interesting card. This is one of those burn up your resources as fast as you possibly can, play Chaos of War so you don't take as much damage, but while your opponent still has a bunch of cards in their hand, they take damage. This is not good in combination with Hand Disruption, which is interesting because aggression likes to do a lot of that as well. But if you can force your opponent to draw a bunch of cards, or if they're drawing a bunch of cards and you can activate this, this could be a game closer, similar to For a Cause I Believe In, without risking as much of, do I whiff with top cards of the deck? You're going to know at all times what the damage it's going to deal based upon the cards that are in each player's hand. It's a very interesting card. I imagine, I'm not sure that the Mandalorian strategy is going to want to use this as much because I don't think they do that too much. If you want to run double aggression Bo-Katan, you totally can. But I think this is definitely designed for that hyper-specific aggression. Just push out as many units as you possibly can, as many units a turn to be able to get those attacks in, and Chaos of War as your finisher, so that way your opponent doesn't see this coming. And there you have it, all the previews that I have the time to be able to go over this week. Next week's episode should be earlier than this. I'm deciding to change the way I release these Regroup Phase videos for coverage of spoilers. Wednesday had traditionally been my day for the longest time. We're actually going to float it back to Tuesday, just trying to check something out, see how certain things work. It's still going to be at the same 2 p.m. release time, so you can look forward to that if you choose to participate and watch my videos, which I hope you do. That's why you're here, right? Interesting stuff going on. I love the Kylo Ren and Rey previews. I love the a bunch of the other bounty hunting things. Not so much a fan of Snoke, not because he's bad, because he's good, but because he's too good. We'll see how things shake out with Shadows of the Galaxy when it drops on July 12th, which is coming up real soon. I signed up for 2 local pre-releases. I hope you're signing up for yours and getting ready to purchase your lovely packs at your local game stores. And that's it. We're done. I've got nothing else to cover this week. We'll see you all next time on Regroup Phase. Remember to like and comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, follow me for all your lovely Star Wars Unlimited needs. You know how to showcase your support of me. I appreciate y'all for everything that you do if you are here to watch me. Thank you very much. And with that, I will see you in the stars.